My story really begins when I was in medical school and I got a phone call that caused severe panic, which was my father was in crisis with his schizophrenia and he had come 400 miles looking for me. Growing up, he'd often come to my school courtyards screaming for me that only I could save him. Now this was a whole new situation. Ultimately, I tried many times to get him health care, even in the Stanford emergency room where I was a medical student. And again, I couldn't get the care that we needed. I became a physician in low-income clinics for many years, and I saw time and time again that it wasn't so much the illnesses that were tearing families apart, but the silences that was happening and the difficulty within the medical system. And I decided to make a documentary about my father and myself. That film really changed me in that it showed me how personal stories are really the way forward to increase compassion and to get our communities bigger, because we've talked so much about the magnitude and the epidemic of mental illness, but also about how much still is silent. And I'm particularly fascinated by the two stories we get. The one story we get is violence, of course, and the other one is the homeless, mentally ill person, which my father was in that camp at times. Neither of those stories are inspiring compassion, and so I've spent over a decade creating documentaries that get to the most personal elements, because I'm convinced that the more personal, the more universal. And as we use compassion to bring people in, it's clearly the way forward to build community, because it's our emotions that make us do actions. Whether it's feeling guilty makes us want to apologize, appreciation makes us want to give thanks, it's through compassion that it's going to motivate a lot more people to get involved in the mental illness world. I think what's amazing is that we're in the digital revolution. And that as we ask people, as the government has done just recently with the Obama initiative to share our stories, the question is, how do we get stories out to people in ways that also gives them tools to process and to move forward and maybe share their own stories? And I think that the real way that we're going to do this and get community to build is in getting students involved. And that the one thing you don't ever hear about is teaching students about mental illness. And I just asked Chelsea about this, and we were in sync that with the Common Core and whatnot, to teach just English and math is not the way forward. I'm convinced, because I've shown my documentaries in schools from elementary through high school, is that students want to know about these things, and they're curious, and that this is going to build empathy, and that way we're building a community that we're completely ignoring right now. And that's building the next generation, so that you're then inspiring a community that actually has compassion for these illnesses, because we've done the experiment. It doesn't come naturally to have the kind of compassion that we wish it would. If you look at sex ed, how did that get into the curriculum? It turns out that it was after World War II, when you had a lot of people coming back from the war and a lot of STDs that were happening. And that was seen as a public health problem. It also got resurgence during the HIV time period, and there was more attention to it. You look at one area that's getting into schools on a federal level, which is bullying. So that if there's a momentum about seeing a need for creating compassion and giving tools, we're seeing that it has happened in the past. And there's a lot of people who are creating curriculum that they try to get into schools piecemeal here and there. And today I've been talking to someone about, what if we got a forum together where we brought everyone together who have experience in this realm and create a one message. If you look at HIV, how they did so well, they had one message, which was treatment, treatment now. And they took that forward. What if we can have a similar message about teaching about mental health and mental illness getting at least a certain amount of hours in schools and being specific about it, I think increases a chance that that could happen. I think particularly, we believe in science. I'm a physician. I believe so much in science that put some of this mental health education that I'm talking about in the science curriculum so that you get tested on it. Students love knowing parts of the brain that cause all sorts of things. Science in the brain is fascinating. Let's not be afraid to teach it.